on talking about. We'll address that coming up in about 15 minutes. I'll get into this whole Twitter firestorm that I find myself involved in. About 18 minutes from now, I'll talk about it. And it'll be the only time I address it, and then I'm done. Because this tweet I put out last night shouldn't have lasted 24 minutes, and instead it's literally been 24 hours of nonstop chatter around this. So I made a vow tonight to myself. I said I'll address it once in the first hour, and then I'm done with it. You guys want to keep talking about it? Knock yourselves out. But I'll address it one time and one time only. We'll get into the baseball. And look, we talk about analytics and overthinking it, and you get managers in situations they're not used to being in, and they start putting players in positions they're not used to being in, and all of a sudden you wind up with what the Mariners had today, which is where we'll lead off the show. Kurt Heelan will join us about 30 minutes from now, talk some NBA with him. Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com is his jam, but don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. Tuesday edition of the Cash In Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app. That's better. All right. Do you have the TV call of the home run? No. If you don't have it, I mean, don't make you go crazy. I could probably find it. Okay. I'd rather throw to it, so just have it ready. What is going on with my laptop? "12 minutes past the hour. Good to be hanging out with you guys. Crazy day of NLDS and ALDS series. We'll get into that. I said I'll deal with this topic one time and one time only tonight. We'll do that in 13 minutes. The whole Troy Aikman thing from last night that I was shocked to wake up to this morning and find that I was caught in the middle of this story that I simply made a tweet about. Just blown away. But anyway, we'll get to that coming up in about 13 minutes on the program. Kurt Heelan will stop by the show about 30 minutes from now. Pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com. We'll do some NBA talk with him. We're going to keep our eye on the baseball throughout the night, give you the live betting lines as we go through the night. Yankees lead the Guardians 4-1 in the top of the eighth inning. I will do my best to not say Indians because it just still rolls off my tongue way too easily. But the Yankees lead the Guardians 4-1 as they play in the top of the eighth inning. 2 outs there, so the Yankees 4 outs away from a Game 1 win, and the biggest thing they got was a great start from Garrett Cole. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. Dodgers already lead the Padres 2-0. Bottom of the second, Chavez Ravine, Dodger Stadium. The live betting lines right now, the Yankees are -3.5 on the spread. Minus 8,000 on the money line. The Dodgers are already minus 1,200 in just the second inning with a 2-0 lead on the Padres. That's insane. The Padres plus 640 on the money line. If you're looking for some value right now, that's probably about the only place you're going to find it. The phone number, if you want to chime in at any point during the show, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004, and you can tweet at the show at the back page. Again, on Twitter at the back page. And I know you all know how to tweet at me because you've been doing it all day. A thought on baseball. I said this last night, and I brought up the example of Buck Showalter, putting in Edwin Diaz into a game in the 7th inning. And he got away with it, and the Mets were able to win Game 2 of that series before succumbing to the Padres in Game 3 rather quietly, meekly. I talked about the fact that, and I get into this all the time. There's always, I think sometimes you can make things much simpler than coaches do, and I think there is a tendency to overcomplicate things. We can get into all these different analytics that are out there, and I buy some of them, and I think some of them are just ridiculous. But we can get into all these numbers all we want, but at the end of the day, athletes are creatures of habit. Professional athletes are creatures of habit. The job of a head coach is to put his players in the best possible position to succeed. The Mariners have fought their tails off all year to get themselves into a position where they're finally going to have a home playoff game for the first time in over 20 years. They go into Toronto as underdogs, even though we told you to pick them on this show, which if you were smart, you did, and you made some money, and I'm happy for you. But I said all along, coaches' jobs is to put their players in the best possible position to succeed. When you play the game one way for 162 games, and baseball is the only sport where they do this to this degree. Baseball, more than any sport, is played one way for 162 games and then completely different for the month known as the postseason. And it makes no sense to me. Why do you play a game one way for 162 games? To make the postseason and then just decide, you know what? I'm going to take one of our starters, one of our good starters, and I'm going to put him in a position that he hasn't been in the entire season against one of the top 5 players in the American League, if not one of the top 5 players in baseball. And what do you get when that happens is Yordan Alvarez coming up with 2 runners on, with the Mariners up by 2 in the 9th inning, and Alvarez doing this.
Tuesday, Alvarez launches deep right field.
Poor Brian Anderson on the call for TBS. I think he lost his voice. We got to make that into a drop. Him just saying, "Are you kidding me?" I think we need to make that into a drop, Belmer. By the way, John Belmer producing the show tonight in Houston, our producer engineer on the show. This is what happens. You get cute. Well, Robbie Ray's a lefty. Yordan Alvarez from the left side of the plate. Yordan Alvarez could hit anybody. Yordan Alvarez could hit blindfolded. The guy's a born hitter. You think Robbie Ray, fresh out of the bullpen, out of his routine, is going to intimidate or throw Yordan Alvarez off of his game? It just blows my mind. And Scott Servais lost that game for his team today. Those guys beat up on Justin Verlander. They did something that nobody's basically been able to do all season long against Justin Verlander. The guy pitched to like a 1.75 ERA. They go in and do their job. They beat up on Justin Verlander. And the Astros still find a way. And Servais has to take a hit for this one. I'm sorry. Nice story, the Mariners and what they've done this season, but there's no getting around it. Scott Servais has to take a hit for the way he managed this situation. And I say this all the time in baseball. Of all the sports, baseball kind of does itself. Baseball games kind of run themselves. The situations just dictate what you're going to do. And generally, the game takes care of itself. That's why it's managing and not coaching. Whereas in the NBA, there's actually coaching going on. Hockey, there's actually coaching going on. Football, there's coaching going on. Baseball, it's managing. You don't have to coach these guys. You just got to manage the few situations that come up. And Servais got caught. And instead of a game one win that could have turned that series on its head, a best of 5 series, you take out their top gun in game one. Instead, Justin Verlander could smile at home plate in the mob with Yordan Alvarez because they got away with one today. The Astros got away with a victory on a day where they should not have gotten one. Which brings me to another thing. Brings me to one more thing. This is the difference between great teams, championship teams, and teams that wind up bowing out in the wild card round. Look at the Mets. Max Scherzer, pounded in game one, gets knocked around. And what happens? Mets crumble into a ball, into the fetal position, and lose game one, and it isn't even close. What did the Astros do today? They backed their guy. They went and supported their guy. They went and took care of business when Justin Verlander didn't have it. That's what championship teams do. That's what great teams do. I may not like the Astros as somebody who's honestly a Yankee fan. I can be objective to the degree that I need to be, but I'm obviously not a huge Astros fan. The sign stealing scandal leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And they try to kind of defend themselves about it rather than just owning it, which doesn't make me like them anymore. But I respect the hell out of the fact that ever since then, all they've done is win. All I do is win, win. That's all they do is win, win. And they did it again today on a day where they should be down 1-0. And that's the difference between Houston and the Blue Jays. Houston and the Mets. Houston and almost every other team in baseball. That's the difference. They could have just rolled over and said, we didn't have our best today. Our stud pitcher got knocked around. We'll come back for game 2. What did they do instead? They bounced back in a big way and win. Exactly. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show at the back page. Again, hit me up on Twitter at the back page. Dodgers on top of the Padres. We'll keep you up to this all night. We'll keep you up to date on all of this all night. Dodgers on top of the Padres, 2-0 as they play in the top of the third. Padres at plus 580 on the money line. Dodgers at minus 1250 now, actually. Padres up to plus 630. Yankees getting set to put the wraps on a Game 1 win over the Guardians. I said it last night on the show when I picked the Yankees to win this series. It's an easy pick. It's probably the easiest of them all. The Yankees have owned the Guardians. They're 5-1 against them in the regular season, and they have pretty much owned them in the postseason with the exception of the midges in Cleveland with Jabba Chamberlain on the mound, which I'll still never forget. When they unleashed the midges. So the Yankees on the verge of taking Game 1 of that series. Game 2 will be on Thursday, weather pending. We'll have to keep an eye on that. When we return, I'll give you one last time to talk about this Troy Aikman thing, because I'm going to get the last word on it. You can all sit there and blast away on Twitter the way you have the last 24 hours. You guys can go ahead and do that. And I'm a big boy. I could take it. In fact, I have found most of the hate tweets laughable because so many of them miss the mark as to who I am. But I'm going to make one last point on it when we continue, and then I'm done with it. Kurt Heelan will join us coming up about 17 minutes from now. We'll talk NBA with him. What's going on with the Draymond Green situation? We'll go around the league with Kurt from Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. We continue in this opening hour of the Cash-In. I'm Jason Page at Sports Map Radio. Ferguson's my boy. Nick Ferguson. That's my boy. Love Nick. Yankees trying to put the wraps on a 4-1 game against the Guardians. That game in the top of the ninth. Yankees trying to get the wraps on game one of that series. They're headed to the bottom of the third in Los Angeles. Dodgers lead the Padres 2-0. Right now on the money line, you can get San Diego at plus 510. Again, love that value bet. That's really the only one that makes sense right now. Also, I'd probably say take San Diego plus 2.5, which you can get at plus 110. Because you're basically taking a bet. I mean, you think about this for a second. Just rationally. You take San Diego at plus 2.5 right now, you're winning. Without another thing happening in the game, you're already winning. Do you think the Padres are going to get shut out? You think this Dodgers offense is going to put up a ton of runs? Maybe, but I love that. Love that bet. Give me the Padres plus 2.5, and I'd probably place a nice little value bet on them on the money line if I were doing the live wagering right now. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show at the back page. I don't know if I'll see it because all the listen. There's nothing. There's no winning, and I don't make comments on Twitter. Debate is debate. Opinion is opinion. There is no right opinion. There is no wrong opinion. There is your opinion. There is my opinion. There are facts, and those are indisputable in many cases unless you live in a world of alternative facts, which some people choose to do. But let me just, I want to put a bow on this whole thing with what I tweeted about Troy Aikman last night because it wound up all over the media somehow. And it was in the New York Post, and it was on SI, and it was on Newsmax, because Newsmax apparently has nothing better to do than cover something I tweeted, among other places. But let me just kind of put this out there. I never called for Troy Aikman to be fired. Let me dispel a few things that are out there in the social media realm, and that's all I want to do. Because my tweet is what my tweet is. And I 100% stand by what I said last night when Troy Aikman made the comment that they need to take the dresses off of quarterbacks, which is essentially saying that women are soft. And you can try and do anything you want to sort of justify what Troy Aikman said and put some word salad together to make you feel better about what Troy Aikman said. But here's exactly what I tweeted last night. Did Troy Aikman really just say what I think he said? Did he really just say it's time for the league to take the dresses off? The 60s called, they want their chauvinist back. And then I said, seriously, at ESPN, do better than that crap. Okay? Now, didn't call for him to be fired. Didn't say he needed to be drawn and quartered. I simply made my opinion known. And ever since, it's been a litany of you're gay, you can't get women, the amazing ones are the ones that say, hey, you must have a hard time getting a date for you to put this tweet up. You must have a hard time getting a date with a woman. 1, I'm married. 2, it's to a guy. So I'm clearly not trying to get a woman. I'm not in the market for one. My only point was to point out that what he said at best was poorly worded. And at worst, it gave you a bit of a window into what his thinking is when it comes to women. And the truth is probably somewhere in the middle of just spouting off something live in the moment that was poorly and inartfully said versus he's a male chauvinist pig. Okay? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. He's a guy in his mid-50s. He's, probably been brought up a certain way, thinks a certain way. And that came out in that statement. Do I think he should be fired? No. Do I think he should apologize for what he said? Yeah, I do. But the hatred and the vitriol and people who think I'm a lot of people out there seem to think that I was triggered by it, and I'm just angry. I went to bed last night like a baby. I was done with it by the time I finished the show. But 24 hours later, I've still got angry white men. You heard me right. I've got angry white men just basically blowing up my Twitter. And they're the ones that can't let it go. They're the ones that are triggered. What are you threatened by? And it's this whole thing with toxic masculinity. And I mean, fine. You can, if it makes you feel better to lash out at me, if you want me to be the whipping boy, go ahead. It doesn't bother me. I've been doing this for 27 years. I can handle your slings and arrows that you throw at me. I mean, you want to laugh? Hey, Belmer, you want to laugh? You know who just tweeted at me about this? You ready? Lenny Dykstra. It's like, Lenny Dykstra, don't you have something better to do? Seriously? Yeah, Lenny Dykstra. Jason has never run an Oklahoma drill in his life, and it shows. Lenny, do they play football in jail? I'm just curious. Lenny. Let me take my cues from the guy who's done time in a federal penitentiary. Good job with that, Lenny. And I just, football. So many people, football is too sissified, all this. Nobody's saying any of that. There's women that coach in the game, though. You have to do justice to the fact that women are involved in the NFL. I just blew my mind. It really did. The whole thing I'm shocked that 24 hours later, people are still talking about this and blowing up my Twitter feed. But knock yourselves out, man. If I got to be the one to take your shots, I'm okay with that. Yankee game is over. They beat the Guardians 4-1. So I'm done. That's it. If you guys want to sit there and have at it on my Twitter timeline, knock yourselves out. I'm not taking calls on it. I'm done responding to the hate tweets. I'm not even reporting people who are writing homophobic things towards me. I'm not even reporting them because there's so many of them. I'd have to literally spend my entire day reporting people to Twitter. And frankly, I got better things to do than that. And you should have better things to do than just spouting off misogyny and homophobic tweets at me throughout the entire day. You should have something better to do. But I guess you don't. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter at the back page. Yankees beat the Guardians 4-1, a 1-0 lead for them. We didn't even mention the fact that the Phillies won again, which is just bonkers. They beat the Braves today 7-6 in a game that wound up being much closer than I think Philly fans would probably prefer. Dodgers continue to lead the Padres 2-0, bottom of the third in L.A., with the Padres coming off of a 3-game series win over the New York Mets. Kurt Hanlon, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, will join us coming up in a couple of minutes. We'll get some thoughts with him. Everybody just take a deep breath, man. It's not the end of the world. Somebody criticizes somebody who has a platform of 13 to 15 million people on television, and you all lose your minds. Yeesh, life is too short, man. We're back with more of the Cash In. Kurt Hanlon joins us next. Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app. Whatever. I wanted to keep it short and sweet, and then I'm done with it. Because I did it 1-800-224-2004 is the phone number, 800-224-2004. You could tweet the show at the back page. Eventually, I'll see it once I sort through my Twitter timeline, which is just an S show, we'll just say right now. I want to talk some NBA, and I wanted to do it last night, but with Monday Night Football, I decided to push back the NBA talk a night. And I wanted to bring in Kurt Heelan, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. My man! Get some thoughts with him on what's going on around the league right now. So, was Draymond Green taking a few days off for him or taking a few days off for the Warriors, or a little bit of both?
I think a little bit of both, but frankly, his return is more dependent on the locker room with the Warrior players. I mean, ultimately, frankly, this is coming from somebody who's screwed up a relationship or two, just, raising my hand here. It ultimately comes back to being forgiven by the person wronged, right? Like, ultimately, Jordan Poole and the rest of the Warriors locker room kind of will decide when it's right for him to come back, or if it's right to come back. I got a feeling it's not an if. They're not really sniffing around for trades. I think it's more of a when. But he's got some work to do to bring. Even Looney said this. He's got some work to do to bring back the trust now.
Is there any doubt about how this story ends, though, and that it ultimately ends with Draymond Green playing elsewhere at some point, whether it's at the end of his contract, 2024, whatever it may be? I mean, this will be his last contract with the team, will it not? Or is that dependent on whether Jordan? I mean, is that dependent on Jordan Poole staying? I mean, how does this end?
I would say he's probably, this is the end of it for him. Look, he can be a free agent, step away, and he can opt out. I should rephrase that. He can opt out and test the market. I don't know that the market's as strong for him as he thinks it's going to be. And by the way, as great a defender as he is, part of that is is based on the system. He is a perfect fit for what the Warriors want to do. If you want to switch everything and have an undersized center who can quarterback everything, it'll work. But that doesn't fit everywhere, right? Like, if you're playing a different system, if you don't have the defenders, that they've sometimes had on the perimeter, it's just not quite the same. So I'm not sure that the market shocked if he ends up having to pick up his option and play another season there. But I think ultimately, look, they basically said they can't afford to keep him, Wiggins, and Poole on raises. I got a feeling Green's going to be the odd man out.
Yeah, and to me, it just kind of makes sense with where he is at this stage of his career and the value he gives versus, the sort of headache he is. And you're going to be paying him, and I think you know this as well as anybody, Kurt, they're going to be paying him retroactively. You're not paying him for future gains and what he's going to be. You're going to be paying him retroactively, and I don't think he's good enough at this stage of his career, or will be in a year from now, where that makes all that much sense. It just doesn't make sense financially unless he's willing to take a massive pay cut to stay there. And he doesn't strike me as the type that's going to do that. I also think he could be one of these guys that, if he sees the writing on the wall, I think he has enough ability to look within himself, and he could be one of those guys that just walks away and goes into the broadcast booth too. Am I wrong?
I don't think that that's out of the question. I think his dignity and his pride would say, man, look, I can play another year for the Warriors if I want to, but let's say he plays out these 2 years and he's like, man, the market for me is offering me, 15 million, 17 million, whatever it is. He might be too proud and say, you know what? I've made a lot of money. I've got my rings. I've won. I'm a future Hall of Famer. I'm just going to take my cushy broadcast gig and go there. So I don't think that's out of the question. I also don't think it's out of the question that some owner from another team is going to be like, hey, man, we can get Draymond. Why are we not getting Draymond and paying him a ton of money? And the basketball ops guys will try to explain it to him, and then he'll say, yeah, but we can get Draymond. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the thing is, I don't think you talk about it. You can pay some guys retroactively if they fill the building, if they still sell merchandise.
Oh,
the Lakers
such
paid
a great
Kobe
point.
Yes,
nobody's going to a game to see Draymond Green.
Right. you can pay. When Curry's contract came through, there were people around the league who were like, yeah, you might regret the last year or two of that basketball-wise, but you're not going to regret it financially. Like, or look, Steph Curry is going to sell jerseys, and people are going to come to see him. It was that way with the Lakers and Kobe. There's other situations out there like that. That's fine. You can live with those. It's not that way with Draymond Green, and I don't think there's going to be the market for him that same way.
What's going on with LaMelo Ball? Obviously hurt his ankle. I know there was a lot of concern about it. And boy, they just can't get a break with keeping this guy healthy, can they?
No, and it was unfortunate. He just drove the lane and on Anthony's foot and rolled it. And if you're looking to bet unders, if you're looking for a team that I think is going to struggle a little this year, Charlotte's going to struggle a little bit. And I think a large part of that is defenses will really be able to focus on Ball because they are without Miles Bridges, who should not be with the team, by the way. He's facing some very serious criminal charges. He is rightfully a team. He led them in scoring last year. Like, that is on the court a loss that's tough to make up. And LaMelo is going to be asked to do a lot this season.
Yeah, he certainly is. Kurt Heelan, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, giving us a few minutes on the show. I don't generally read into too much that I see during the preseason, and God knows these guys don't play a ton of minutes during the preseason. Heck, the Mavericks, I think, are only playing 3 preseason games, which is probably the fewest of any team in the league. So I don't go too crazy about what I see in the preseason. With that said, it's your job to watch it. I don't have to. You do. What do you get so far out of what you've seen in the preseason, and any surprises, anything that's kind of stuck out to you early on?
Not huge surprises. You take away individual, like you said, like who's looked good, who's kind of stepped up, and then what teams. I think Philadelphia has looked pretty smooth. I believe they're undefeated. Again, who cares? They're winning preseason games. But Harden and the front line has looked pretty good there next to Maxey, and I thought they could win a lot of regular season games going in if they could find a balance between their 3 guys. I think they're finding that pretty quickly. And then there's the obvious one, which is Zion's in shape, man. I don't know if I think they're a playoff team. I think the Pelicans are pretty good. I don't know how good they're really going to be. I don't know how well they're going to defend, but they might be everybody's league pass favorite, man. It's going to be one heck of an entertaining team to watch.
Yeah, and Zion, I just hope he gets. I just want to see 1 year. I just want to see 1 year of him healthy, so we at least have some baseline by which to set, because there just hasn't been enough there for me to set what a baseline for him looks like over, if he plays 70 games, what that baseline looks like. Do you think they're going to kind of baby him early on in the NBA schedule and sort of work him in? Because, again, during the preseason, you're not playing a ton. The minutes are kind of stretched out. The games are spread out. Do you get the sense that they're gonna sort of take their time with him and not try and throw him out there and play a bunch of minutes early on?
I think they don't have to, is the good thing. This is a really deep team with good players, and not just, by the way, C.J. McCollum and Brandon Ingram. Like, Larry Nassar is going to be able to come in there and play some minutes. Like Herb they're deep with guys who are solid NBA position players who are going to be able to come in and eat up minutes during the regular season. Guys you might not be able to lean on heavily in the postseason, but you can give them more minutes in the regular season. And I think you can do that. I think you can, because of that, you can get some load management nights in for Zion, right? Like, you can just not have him play a back-to-back or whatever it might be. So I wouldn't be shocked if they go that route, if they're a little cautious with him for good reason. But I'm with you. I am curious to see what a 7-game Zion looks like, because if it's anything like the Zion we've seen in preseason, and even frankly one season he was mostly healthy, that's like an all-NBA level guy, and suddenly that becomes a very, like I said, just a very interesting team.
Yeah, it's a team nobody wants to play in the postseason. The Lakers are obviously a big topic of conversation. You and I are both out on the West Coast. Everybody's sort of holding their breath for what this team looks like during the regular season. Any sense for what that roster looks like right now and how Russell Westbrook fits into all of it, and the relative health of the team, and trying to keep everybody on the court again for 70 or 75 games, being able to have the core playing together, where the Lakers are at right now?
I'll say Anthony Davis looked good in his last preseason game where they kind of put him out there and let him really go. And they're asking a lot of him. They're going to run through the offense through him. He is going to be more of a number one option. Obviously, they've got LeBron, and we'll let you in on a secret, Jason. I think at the end of the games, they're going to put the ball in LeBron's hands. But
here's the thing. But here's the thing that I'll say to that before you continue. They'll put it in his hands. He'll draw a double, and then somebody's going to have to make a shot because they're not going to let LeBron take the last shot in a lot of instances.
No, and I look, Kendrick Nunn has looked pretty good. I thought Kevin Durant is a completely different team, but same concept. Where you're like, well, let's see what it looks like. Even he today, they asked, hey, how's the vibes? And he's like, and I think this applies to the Lakers. He's like, hey, our vibes have been great. Like, it's been really, I think straight is the word he used. Vibes have been really straight. Everything's been good. But what happens when we hit, we lose a few in a row and hit a skid or somebody gets injured? Like, that's when we're really going to be tested as a team. I think that's absolutely true of the Lakers, who lost their will last year. They were not, I think Patrick Beverley, I was there. Patrick Beverley on Media Day basically said, I wasn't worried about beating the Lakers last year because I knew they'd mentally wear down. He used slightly different wording, but that was basically his line. He isn't wrong. I think with Beverly, they won't necessarily be as soft this year that way mentally. But what happens when adversity hits? What happens when Westbrook isn't fit system? Right now, he's doing all the things he said he'd do, but what happens when he doesn't? It's going to be interesting, or what happens when he tries to take over at the end of the game and he doesn't give it to LeBron or Anthony Davis? It's the adversity is coming, and we'll see how these Lakers handle it.
I got less than a minute left. I have to ask my one obligatory Knicks question. Can they be a top 4 seed?
Dude, it's a good thing you're in California. That stuff's legal here. No, I don't think. I think they're a play-in team. Maybe, look, if things broke their way, maybe they could get up to 6. If RJ has a good year and some teams above them struggle a little bit, here's the problem. They got better. Getting Brunson, another year RJ Barrett. Like, I think they got better, but the East as a whole got better. So I'm not sure that they're more than a play-in team right now.
Kurt Hamlin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Check out his work there. My man, it's always good to catch up. You're not far from me because I'm in Palm Springs. I'm going to have to get out there. We're going to have to get together before long.
I'm out that way occasionally. I've got in-laws out there. So if you're out, I'll send you a message. I hear there are places that serve beer there.
Yeah, and places we can watch sports too. Kurt, always appreciate it, my man. Be well.
Take care.
Kurt Hamlin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Always good to catch up with him for a few. I'm holding out hope for my Knicks. I don't root for anybody hard anymore. The closest I come to it is the Yankees. I grew up on the East Coast, so I have some of that New York bias, obviously, which probably shows through at times. But I'm not. There's the Yankees are about the only thing I come close to sort of quote unquote living and dying with. My Nick love died when Patrick Ewing got traded to the Seattle Supersonics. Remember the Seattle Supersonics? Yeah. One day they'll be back. All right, we'll come back, wrap up this hour of the Cash-In. I'm Jason Page at Sports Map Radio. Getting set to put the wraps on hour number 1 of the show. Hey, if you love fantasy sports, you owe it to yourself to check out jockmkt.com or just download the Jock MKT app. If it sounds like jock market, it's because that's what it is. Instead of the stock market, look at it as the jock market. You go in, they've got IPOs, you go and put in bids on players, you get them onto your, sort of under your umbrella, and if they wind up performing well, much like fantasy sports, you win money. Go and check it out, jockmkt.com. And for cash-in listeners and viewers, we've got a special 100% deposit bonus going on for you. Use the promo code CASHIN. Again, promo code CASHIN when you make your first deposit. 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Head over to CASHIN, or rather, I should say, head over to jockmkt.com. Go and check out the Jock MKT app. It's very easy to use. I had Aaron Judge tonight. I don't know if that paid off much. He had a walk, run scored. No, we didn't win much. Well, so be it. But it's a lot of fun. Go and check it out. And they have more traditional contests that mirror a bit of what you're used to when it comes to fantasy sports. But I love the option to put in a bid on a player and have that player. And if he finishes in, if he winds up in the top spot, you win money. It's a lot of fun. Go and check it out. There's tutorials there on how to use it. The Jock MKT app, Jock MKT. Just think of it like the jock market. Jock MKT. Stay in the game. Promo code CASHIN for that 100% deposit bonus here on the Cash In. Another hour of the show is right around the corner. The Dak Dilemma. It continues what Jerry Jones is saying today about Dak Prescott. A lot of football to get to in the next hour of the show. We will do just that as we continue. I'm Jason Page. Glad to have you with us. The Cash In on Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app. Hour 2 of the show starts right now. Sports Map Radio, the Sports Map Radio app. Hello to my peeps in Dallas listening on 97.1 The Freak. One of our new affiliates joining the Cash In family. Love you guys. 1-800-224-2004 is the telephone number. 800-224-2004. If you want to tweet at the show, you can do that as well. At The Back Page, again on Twitter. At The Back Page. At some point, hopefully I'll be able to actually go back to looking at my Twitter feed. Because it's been co-opted by a bunch of crazies. But that's okay. That happens. In this hour of the show, Ron Rivera. If there's an old saying in politics, if you're explaining, you're losing. And I think it probably applies here to Ron Rivera as well. If you're explaining, you're losing. If you're apologizing, you're losing. And in the case of Ron Rivera, he had to do the old mea culpa today when it comes to Carson Wentz. We'll get into that. And look, he should have to. If there's one thing, I guess, to go back what we talked about last hour, even though I said I'm not going to talk about it anymore, this whole Twitter thing. Words matter. What you say matters. And it's not enough to simply say, you're too soft. You can't handle it. Words will never hurt me. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. All of that stuff sounds great, but it's not reality. Everybody has a different upbringing. Everybody has a different background, a different backstory that explains their makeup and why they are the way they are. To some people, words do hurt. To some people, they don't. Words don't bother me. They bother some people. Actions bother me more than words. But words do have consequences. And to some people, more so than others. And Ron Rivera is finding that out the hard way. We'll get into that. The Brett Favre situation. I don't want to talk too much about the off-the-field stuff, and especially some retired player, but this Brett Favre story just gets uglier every day. And, we got the NFL fan version of Ambulance Chasers. We'll get into that a little later on in the hour. But the Dak dilemma, what Jerry Jones is saying about his Cowboys quarterback, that's next on the Cash In on Sports Map Radio. No, Diet Coke. I don't drink Coke Zero. Who drinks Coke Zero? Oh, that stuff is rancid. Matter of fact, my friends and I learned something interesting. If you leave Coke Zero in a cabinet long enough, it eventually just evaporates. Oh, yeah. That stuff is toxic, man. Where'd it go? I have no idea. There were no holes in the cans, but if you leave that stuff in a cabinet long enough, it just evaporates. Yeah. That's why you're growing a third nipple. Am I talking to you? "12 minutes past the hour. The Cash In, Sports Map Radio, and the Sports Map Radio app. We appreciate you being with us. 5-0 Dodgers on top of the Padres. LA cruising in game one of this best of 5 NLDS. San Diego, by the way, now at plus 2,600 on the money line, plus 5.5 when it comes. And look, I tell you, I say this all the time, man. For live betting, take the team getting the runs. Obviously, at 2.5, it wouldn't look too good for you right now, but is San Diego going to get shut out? Do the Dodgers take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit? Game's only in the fourth inning. A lot of time for the Padres to still score some runs. I would take the Padres plus the 5.5 right now if you're talking about live betting as it relates. 1-800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. Tweet at us at the back page if you got something useful to say. And maybe we'll read it on the show. Also, very important, I almost forgot to mention this. You have to be following me on Twitter. Not just so you can see all the hate tweets. No. You need to follow me on Twitter because we give stuff away every Wednesday on this show. I dip into the prize closet. We pull something out. We give it away. The only way you can win is if you're following me on Twitter. So you have to follow me on Twitter at the back page. Send me a note, and you're entered to win one of our giveaways that we do every Wednesday here on the show. All right, the Dak dilemma. It's the daily story. It's like the soap opera of the Dallas sports world. What do the Cowboys do with Dak Prescott? Well, we're getting closer to finding out because the team is going to have him throw tomorrow. And that's where we're going to start to figure out. And, I don't normally put a ton of stock in what Jerry Jones says because, he's the GM of the team and obviously he's the owner of the team. But when it comes to talking about football X's and O's, he's not generally the guy that I want to listen to. I'd rather listen to a head coach talk about that or a player talk about that for obvious reasons. No offense to Jerry, just something I'd rather do. But in the case of Dak Prescott, he makes a very good point. He has to be able to spin the football. If you've ever thrown a football, which I have, you've got to be able to throw a spiral. And I know this sounds kind of basic and rudimentary, but when you have the sort of brace on his hand that you see him pictured with as he recuperates from this thumb injury, it's not easy to get a grip on the ball. He doesn't have particularly massive hands as it is, and then be able to throw an accurate spiral with it. And either he's going to be able to do it or he won't. And if he can't, then Cooper Rush will start this week against the Eagles and you take your chances. But he either can or he can't. I don't think it's a question of whether they're holding him out, whether or not they're waiting for some special reason because maybe they think Cooper Rush is, the answer at quarterback now because he's won 4 straight games. I don't think it's any of that. I think it's just simply a question of can he physically do it? Is he physically capable of doing what needs to be done in order to play quarterback at a high level in the NFL right now? And the beauty of it is if you're the Cowboys, if he can't, life will go on for one more week. And it just means he gets another week to get closer to getting healthy. Because you got a shot with Cooper Rush. I know the Eagles are undefeated. I know the Cowboys have to travel to Philadelphia. I know everybody's going gaga about the Eagles. I still don't have them as the best team in my power rankings. That's still the Buffalo Bills. And I think the Eagles are in that next tier with a few other teams, which to me includes the Cowboys, just because of what they can do defensively. And you ask your team and other guys to step up for one more week and pick up Dak Prescott, who's unable to get out there and play. So what did Jerry Jones say in his weekly interview with the Dallas sports radio station today? Can he zip the ball and make the throw? Jones asked rhetorically. We'll start working on that Wednesday real hard. So they got a few days to figure out if he's capable of doing it or not. Cooper Rush is at the ready. Got to remember, he only suffered this injury, literally 1 month ago tomorrow. September 12th. So roughly, 4.5 weeks, whatever you want to say, in that game against the Buccaneers. And he's been doing some light throwing, but he's not cutting it loose yet. And you don't have to. I think we all know by now, Dak Prescott's going to be the quarterback. Whether Cooper Rush wins this week and he's 5-0 and the team is 5-1 under his leadership at the quarterback position, or whether it's the following week against the Lions on the 23rd back in Dallas. Then you got the Bears after that. I mean, the Cowboys have an opportunity, a good opportunity to win 2 of the next 3 games. That puts you at 6-2, basically at the halfway point of the season. You'd sign up for that all day if I told you you'd be missing Dak Prescott for 4 or 5 games, and you're still 6-2. Does it make it harder to win the division if you lose this game to the Eagles because you're 2 back and you're down 1 in the head-to-head? Of course it does. But you've got to be thinking big picture here in the long term and making sure Dak is right. Like I said, we all know Dak Prescott's going to be the starting quarterback when he's able to spin the ball, so to speak. Jones said, well, let's just put it like this. He's got to spin the ball. He's got to really spin the ball. And just think about it. Put your hand down on something that would be the equivalent of a football. Try to do that without thumb strength. Try to spin that ball. Try to direct the ball without thumb strength. If you're really giving it a proper thumb, you can't do it. And listen, again, we like to laugh at what Jerry says sometimes about certain things. He's 100% right about this. This is spot on when you're talking about what Dak Prescott needs to do. And I'm sure he's getting that directly from the medical staff and, the coaches and all of that. So you give Dak an opportunity to heal up. If he's ready this week and is capable of making the throws he has to make, great. If he's not, you start Cooper Rush. Because the style of offense the Cowboys are running right now, whether it's Dak or Cooper Rush, they're going to have a shot to win this weekend in Philadelphia. I'll give the Cowboys a chance regardless of whether Cooper Rush is under center or Dak Prescott is under center. You guys all know by now, I have bought into the Dallas Cowboys. They are an elite Super Bowl caliber team defensively, and I think they can do just enough offensively, with or without Dak right now. Cowboys are 7-point underdogs on the road. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Cowboys are, let me make sure I have it right here. Cowboys are, 5.5-point underdogs on the road in Philadelphia. I'd take the points all day. I'd also take the under all day at 42.5. I don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. Whether it's Dak or whether it's Cooper Rush, they're not going to try to make Dak do too much in his first game back. Which is why I think if he's not ready, if he's not 100% able to do the things physically he's used to doing, I think you're setting him up to fail. Especially in this spot on the road against a division rival that happens to be undefeated and is playing very good football. I think you're setting him up to fail. What should the Cowboys do? 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. And if you want to tweet at the show, do it at the back page. Again, on Twitter, at the back page. What do you do if you're the Cowboys? Let's say he's 80%. Can't really get into it for a long ball. Again, I think if you're limited at all, you're putting him in a position to fail. And I think the answer for the Cowboys is simple. Start Cooper Rush. And you take your chances. The guy went into Los Angeles. He didn't have to do a whole heck of a lot. But again, he's playing mistake-free football. And half the problem with so many quarterbacks in this league is avoiding mistakes. Just avoid, when you have a defense as good as Dallas has, Micah Parsons flying around the field, Diggs flying around the field, you don't need to score a ton of points. I could see a 20-17 game either way this weekend. 19-16 either way this weekend. I think the Cowboys could be on the winning side of it, whether or not Dak Prescott is there or not. I wonder how much say Mike McCarthy has in this, too, when we get down to it. How much of a say does Mike McCarthy have in the Dak decision? He should have 100% of the say, but we all know this is the Cowboys, and not everything necessarily operates that way. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. On Twitter, at the back page, if you got a thought, you want to let me know what you think on what you would do if you were the Cowboys in this situation. Ron Rivera's making a mess of the Washington Commanders. He threw his quarterback under the bus, who they went and brought in, and it's not looking very good right now for the Washington Commanders under Ron Rivera. We'll get to that as we continue on the Cash In. I'm Jason Page at Sports Map Radio. tweet at the show, you can do that too. At the back page, again on Twitter, at the back page. 5-1 now. The Dodgers on top of the Padres. So the Padres able to scratch across a run. That's why you take them on that live money line when they were plus 5.5. Now you're up by 1.5. You know they're going to scratch and claw their way, get a couple of runs. All these postseason games, nothing. You get very few blowouts in the postseason. Most postseason games, they're going to be nail biters. They're going to be close one way or another. So if you're smart, live betting, if a team gets down 3-0, you don't panic. You bang them on the money line. If you take a team and they're down 3-0, bang them on the money line. It's almost like a hedge of sorts. We'll get to Brett Favre coming up in a few minutes, plus ambulance chasing the NFL version. Ron Rivera is having a rough couple of days. After he rolled the bus over his starting quarterback. Hey, here's a great idea. Let's go get a quarterback. Veteran guy who's won in this league. Think what you want of Carson Wentz, but let's go out and get him. And when we get off to a slow start in our division and somebody asks us a question about what's wrong with our team, let's just roll the bus over our starting quarterback and answer the quarterback is what's the problem. On Monday, Ron Rivera was asked why the Commanders were 1-4 in his third season compared with the other teams in the division, which are all at least 4-1. Rivera answered, quarterback. Now, later in that conversation, he said the other team's quarterbacks had been in place longer than Wentz had in Washington. Remember, they just traded for him in the offseason. And he tried to kind of back it up a little more and said the quarterback's still getting comfy with, new teammates, new offense. Rivera said they now have a quarterback they can build around. But his initial first answer, the first answer is all anybody hears. This is communications 101. And it's why you have to have people in place that understand the power of their words. That one-word answer, it did not go very well. Former Commanders quarterback Alex Smith went after his former coach. Wentz, though, said coach addressed it, handled it, nothing for me that I'm overly concerned about. Coach is a very straightforward, upfront guy. He addressed it in the team meeting, which I thought was really cool, in what he meant by it all. I feel very confident in that. I said this earlier. There's a rule of thumb when it comes to leadership, public speaking. If you're explaining, you're losing. If you've got to apologize or give an explanation, then you're losing. And Ron Rivera right now isn't just losing on the field, he's losing off the field as well. Rivera said he understood why his comments were taken in a negative light, which is why he addressed it with the entire team. What did he say? I told them I said some things that were misconstrued. Or misconstrued, it's what you said. I didn't present them properly. That's on me. Yes, that's the most true thing you've said. I took accountability, told the guys I should know better. Then he swore and said, I had a bad day, so I figured I was feeling better today. Let's move forward. Boy, you want to... Man alive. Can we just skip Thursday Night Football and the live betting? I'm sure we'll wind up with something to talk about because it's the NFL and that's just the nature of this league. I'm sure something will happen on Thursday night, but my God, if you're paying to watch the Commanders and the Bears on Thursday night, I'm sorry. Amazon should give you a refund on your Prime membership for subjecting you to the Commanders and the Bears in Chicago. Washington backup QB Taylor Heineke said, we all assumed that was taken the wrong way. Talking about what Rivera said. He did a good job clearing that up this morning. People could say what they want publicly, but at 1-4 and your coach throwing the quarterback under the bus, yeah, Yeah, chances are that story doesn't have a very happy ending in Washington for Ron Rivera, who's now had a few years and an opportunity to build that franchise and do some things with it. And, well, you kind of see what he's done. Top of the fifth inning, nobody out. Here are the Padres trying to claw their way back in, trailing 5-1 with a runner on first. Padres right now are at plus 540. And plus 2.5 now on the money line. Or rather on the spread, sorry. 540 on the money line, plus 2.5 on the spread. Looking ahead to tomorrow in baseball, by the way, the Phillies and the Braves. Philadelphia with Zach Wheeler, Kyle Wright going for the Braves. Philadelphia at plus 116. The Braves are at minus 134. That game, did I say tomorrow? Yeah, that game is tomorrow. This series, the Padres and Dodgers will also have game 2 tomorrow. Mariners and the Astros will reunite for game 2 of that series on Thursday, as will the Yankees and the Guardians. This was the only day where you got the 4 games. You'll get 2 tomorrow, 2 on Thursday. Mariners-Astros game 2 with Luis Castillo going for the Mariners, and I would bang the Mariners hard in that game at plus 130. With Castillo on the mound, I would take them all day. Framber Valdez goes for the Astros. They're minus 154. Yankees with Nestor Cortez on the mound in game 2 against the Guardians on Thursday. Shane Bieber for the Guardians. And the Yankees at minus 142. And the Guardians at plus 120. That's your early lines on those Thursday games and the games coming up tomorrow. There's already a line on the Padres and Dodgers. I don't know much of the point in really talking about it until this game ends, because I'm sure that line will shift a bit depending on what happens in the final several innings of this game. Padres at plus 172 with Yu Darvish on the mound. Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers at minus 205. 1-800-224-2004 is the number. 800-224-2004 on Twitter at The Back Page. Again, hit me up on Twitter at The Back Page. The Padres are threatening second and third now with nobody out in the top of the fifth. Urias is struggling a bit. Padres about to get back in this game. See if they could put some runs on the board and make the Dodgers sweat. The Brett Favre situation, it's not looking good for the former Packer great. An ambulance chasing, NFL style. That's next on The Cash In. I'm Jason Page at Sports Map Radio. Cool. All right. 20 minutes till the top of the hour. Cash in. Sports Map Radio. Sports Map Radio app. Padres scratch a couple of runs across. 5-3 now. Top of the fifth. Now just think, John Belmer, producer, engineer extraordinaire, when it was 5-0 and the Padres were plus 5.5 on the live line in the game, who said take the Padres at plus 5.5? That was me. And if you did that right now, you'd be sitting pretty. You would be sitting pretty if you took those 5.5 runs when they're only down 5-3 now. That's why, man, you have to keep banging that live line. And now they're plus 560 on the money line, which is still a fairly good number to get them at. The game's only in the top of the fifth. Get Urias out of the game. I like Jerkson Profar, by the way. He's up right now. That dude's a gamer. So that's where we are. 5-3 Dodgers on top of the Padres as they play in the top of the fifth inning in Los Angeles. Still a lot of game left to go there, and we'll keep you posted on it. 1-800-224-2004 is the phone number, 800-224-2004. You can also tweet at the show if you desire at the back page. It's not a good time to be Brett Favre. And I don't know how this story ends, if there's enough to prosecute him, if he winds up behind bars. And I don't have a vested interest in it one way or the other. I think it's kind of a grimy, disgusting story about how poor people are treated in America. And you get a lot of these states below the Mason-Dixon where things like this take place. And, look, the way you solve these things is at the ballot box and at the polls, at the voting booth in November. And I'm not doing a political show or even some social justice show, but the Brett Favre story, he could keep trying to spin it any way he wants right now. He does not look like a good dude. He is not coming out of this looking clean at all. According to a Mississippi state audit, $77 million in temporary assistance for needy families. Think about that. $77 million in temporary assistance for families in need were diverted from the poorest people in America's poorest state towards the rich and powerful in Mississippi. 6 people have been arrested. 5 have pled guilty to state charges. Favre has not criminally been charged, but he's a defendant in a civil lawsuit filed by the state, and criminal charges may not be far behind. His alma mater, Southern Miss, got $5 million in those temporary assistance for needy family funds. $5 million. Imagine what that could have done for the poor people in Mississippi. Goes from the Department of Human Services to a nonprofit, eventually into USM's Athletic Foundation. A volleyball facility, wellness center was later built on campus. There were text messages that showed Favre pushing for funding for that volleyball facility. Oh, yeah, when his daughter was on the team. And state agencies provided the funds to Nancy News Charity, the Mississippi Community Education Center. And Brett Favre is saying, nobody ever told me. Brett Favre said, nobody ever told me, and I didn't know that the funds designated for welfare recipients were going to the university or me. He said, I tried to help my alma mater, a public Mississippi State University, raise funds for a wellness center. My goal and always will be to improve the athletic facilities at my university. So he's sticking with that. Thinks he's been unjustly smeared in the media. And who did he say that to? Of course, Fox News. Not going to go anywhere where he has to answer tough questions like the text messages that show him asking, the media is not going to find out about where this money came from, are they? Again, there's no way to make Favre look good in this. And I don't know if it rises to the level of criminal activity and if he's going to wind up being in trouble. He went and got a new attorney, one of the guys that represented Donald Trump in his former president Donald Trump in his impeachment hearings, but doesn't look good for Brett Favre. State audit didn't look good. We'll see what winds up happening. He also got paid to do a bunch of appearances he never made. He paid back most of that money. He's being sued for the rest of it. There's just, again, just because of the public reporting on this story and the documents and things that are out there, there's no way that Brett Favre comes out of this unscathed. All right, from Brett Favre to ambulance chasers, NFL style. I mean, I just can't. I want to be in the car that gets bumped from behind by another car and run out of the car with like a neck brace on. You always used to see that in movies. People that would take like a neck brace out of the glove compartment when you get bumped by somebody and you walk out. Oh, my neck. That's what's going on in the NFL right now. Let me start with what happened on Monday night because we talked about it on this show. As he was going off the field, Davante Adams pushed down a freelance cameraman that was working on the game for ESPN. And now a police report has been filed. Yep. A police report has been filed in Kansas City as a result of that incident. Josh McDaniels is supporting Davante Adams. Says as a person, he's a great guy, great human being. Says, I know this was an unfortunate situation. We obviously don't want any of our guys to be doing anything like that. He knows that. He's very well aware of that. But I know the person. I don't think there was any intent behind it on his part. First of all, whether there's intent doesn't matter as far as the law is concerned. And intent is very difficult to judge anyway. And if we wind up talking about like a civil lawsuit, then it just winds up being all the more murkier and muddier. Do I think? Look, if Davante Adams wanted to hurt this guy, I'm sure he could have hurt him. I don't think he was trying to hurt him. And this is where I'm sorry, the guy that got pushed down. I'm going one and one on these two stories. On the Davante Adams one, this guy has filed a police report. And the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department actually had to release a statement Tuesday morning. I feel bad for the person who had to type this thing up that elaborated on the situation. I'm going to read you this statement, and we need a laugh track somewhere. The victim is the victim. My God. The victim is a photographer at the Chiefs-Raiders game. At the end of the game, he was pushed to the ground, causing injury. This is the statement from the Kansas City Police Department. He made arrangements for private transport to the hospital, for treatment, at which time he called police. In other words, when his friends all called him and said, "Oh my God, you can sue and get so much out of this." That's what happened. I mean, let's be straight. Let's keep it a buck, right? Made arrangements for private transport to the hospital for treatment. So who knows what happened from the stadium to the hospital, where his friends are probably saying, you know, "You got to sue, man. This is your 15 minutes. So he calls the police. Then the statement goes on to say the injuries are preliminarily thought to be non-life threatening. Belmer. Come here, John Belmer. He got pushed to the ground. The injuries are thought to be non-life threatening. The fact that they even had to put that in a press release, somebody had to be laughing snot bubbles out of their nose as they put this thing out. Right, Belmer? Come on. I mean, come on. The incident will be investigated by our assault unit detectives upon completion. They'll coordinate with the applicable city or state prosecutor to determine any applicable charges. I just hope one time in this case that this prosecutor just is like, no, we're not prosecuting this. I mean, really? You want to go after him civilly, dude? Go after it. Because God knows there are not enough civil lawsuits and meaningless litigation in America today. The report said the investigation is expected to take longer than 1 to 2 days. How long does it take? We all saw what happened. Adams apologized after the game. I told you, I think he's getting suspended for a game. Belmer disagrees with me. He doesn't think he's going to get suspended. But I think he's getting suspended for a game. Then there's the dude who ran out last Monday night. Not this past Monday night, but the previous Monday night in the Rams game. And Bobby Wagner took him out on the field, which was just awesome. So this guy trespassed onto the field. And again, bad job by the LA security folks there. But the guy gets onto the field. He's running around with this pink incendiary object that's blowing all this pink smoke around the field. You see him at soccer matches a lot of times in the crowd. So the guy runs out onto the field. The security guards look like the Benny Hill show trying to catch him, and they can't. They're running around. All you needed in the background was the Benny Hill music. And that trespasser got taken down by Bobby Wagner, who was able to subdue him, knocked him down. Well, now the guy has apparently suffered a concussion, allegedly, among other injuries. He was also burned on his arm because of that incendiary device he carried onto the field, the pink smoke grenade or whatever it was. So the dude was looking for publicity, obviously, for some animal rights issue that he was obviously passionate about. But then he tries to parlay the reaction to his awful deeds into even more publicity, and now with his injuries, he's going to try to make the art. I told you, it's the same as the guy who tries breaking in through a skylight to burglarize a house and falls onto a knife and then says, well, that knife shouldn't have been there. I'm charging. I'm suing the person who owns the house because I was trying to rob it, nice and easy, and I fell on this knife. I got this gash in my leg, so now I'm suing. This is the equivalent of that. If this guy's lawsuit stands up, there is big-time problems. And look, you want to make the argument that Davante Adams should be arrested and thrown in jail for 2 weeks or have to do community service. Knock yourself out. I mean, the guy's running off the field. It's the heat of the moment. The guy got in his way. He pushed him down. I'm not saying he should be suspended for a game, but I'm thinking that's what's going to happen. What would you do in either situation? 1-800-224-2004 if you got a thought on it. You can tweet at me as well at the back page. All right, we'll come back, wrap up the hour. We'll tell you what's going on in this Dodgers affair with the Padres. Game 1 NLDS. It's the only game remaining today. Padres clawing their way back into the game as they move, or as they are in the top of the 6th. We'll keep you posted as we continue the cash-in on this Tuesday on Sports Map Radio. Top of the 6th inning in Los Angeles. Dodgers lead the Padres 5-3. Runner on first, nobody out for the Padres, so they are bringing the tying run to the plate after trailing 5-0 in this game. If you're a Padres fan, you would have signed up for that in a minute, and if you had money on the Padres, you sure as hell would be signing up for that. Dodgers have gone to the bullpen. Manny Machado at the plate, so you're in a good spot right now if you're the Padres. Plus 390 now on the money line. Dodgers at minus 600. And the Padres on the spread are plus 1.5. The Dodgers at minus 1.5. So that's what we got going on right now in that game. I told you when they were down 5, take them plus 5.5 on that money line. If you did, you'd be very happy right now. I also told you to take them when they were plus 2.5, when they were down 2-0 on the money line. Did I not, John Belmer? See? So twice you'd be winning right now on that money line, on the live betting on the money line and on the spread. I mean, come on. Not on the money line, but on the spread. What, Padre fans? Oh, they don't want money. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, if you don't want money, just give it to me. I'll take it. I'm cool with that. All right, next hour, we'll run through this Matt Rule situation in Carolina. We haven't even talked about the fact that Matt Rule is out in Carolina 5 games into the season, that they've already fired the head coach, that, Baker Mayfield is missing a couple. It's just a mess. I mean, the Carolina Panthers are just an absolute dumpster fire. And, Christian McCaffrey went from being this guy that you couldn't miss, that you had to pay up for every week in fantasy. And now, well, the fantasy is not so much of a fantasy. Can't keep him healthy. But with Matt Rule out, the next question is, who's next to get the axe? We'll get into that in the next hour of the show. Lots more to do as we continue. Tuesday edition of the Cash In all across America on Sports Map Radio. Stay with us. Dude, let me tell you, it's really tough. Final hour of a Tuesday/Wednesday edition of the show. Glad to have you with us. The cash in on Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app. How about them Padres knocking on the door? They got Will Myers up. Top of the sixth. They trailed 5-0 in this game against Julio Urias. It was 5-0. Now it's 5-3. Top of the sixth. 2 runners on, 1 out. Myers at the plate. The Crow Show is on deck. Come on. Let's get some chaos in these playoff series. We're already getting it with the Phillies. The Mariners should have had a crazy win today, and Scott Cervais figured out a way to throw that away. His reaction is everything you needed to see. You don't even need to see where the ball went. As soon as the pitch gets thrown, they showed the reaction of Scott Cervais when Yordan Alvarez made contact, and he knew it. He knew it was going to be a long night. He knew it was going to be a long night with a whole lot of questions to answer and not a lot of sleep coming his way because of the decision he made to go to Robbie Ray. Ugh, God. Just awful. But this is what happens. Yeah, go ahead. Like I said, why do you manage a game one way for 162 games? Why do you manage a team one way for 162 games? And then with what got you there, you decide in the postseason, you know what, that's not good enough. We're going to try something else. We're going to put a starter in. It's idiotic. It's smartest guy in the room syndrome. He thought he was so smart. Oh, I got the answer for you, Yordan Alvarez. It's Robbie Ray. If I was Yordan, I would have turned to Cervais when I took that swing and just laughed. Matt Rule is out in Carolina, so who's next? We look at the odds. I'm Jason Page. This is Sports Map Radio. No. Nope. I'll do the heal-in. I'll do the first segment of the show where I talked about the Cervais thing. And then this segment here talking about who's out next. Coaching firings. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you could just do that. Run it. Yeah, do that. That's fine with me. The Dodgers able to work out of trouble in the top of the sixth. They're now getting their licks in the bottom of the sixth. 5-3 Dodgers on top of the Padres. National League Division Series Game 1 in L.A. Live line on it, minus 1,100 for the Dodgers right now. The Padres are plus 610. And with the Padres down 2, they are plus 2.5 on the spread on the live betting at minus 188. Dodgers at plus 146 at minus 2.5. And I'd say bang that. I'd say it again. Give me the Padres plus the 2.5. I would right now. I would have made this would have been the third bet in this game I would have made. Padres when they were down 5 at plus 5.5, when they were down 2-0 at plus 2.5, and I'd take them now at plus 2.5 in the bottom of the sixth. Worst case, you lose 2 out of 3, which basically means you lose 1. And I think at best case, you're up in all 3. To me, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer, Belmer. If they ever legalize gambling in your state and mine, we'll have to do this together. Yeah, I know Texas will be the last state to legalize sports betting. I know, which is crazy. It's just so much revenue. I don't know why these states are dragging their feet on it, man. Because people are either spending their money gambling offshore, or you could have it within your own borders. But either way, people that want to bet on sports are still betting on sports. I'm the only person on the planet who's not taking advantage of offshore betting. And it's just, it is. It's absolutely too inconvenient. I agree. After I've had a chance to taste what legalized sports betting is like I go to Connecticut frequently, and in the state of Connecticut, sports betting is legal, and you can do it on your app, on your phone, or you can go to the casino and do it. Once you've had the taste of being able to do that and immediately get paid out and not have to wonder if your money's coming via Bitcoin or whether it's actually coming in cash or whatever, and you got to send 50 emails to the account in Costa Rica to get them to send it to you. After you've had the taste of just being able to make a bet, win a bet, cash out a bet, the offshore stuff just doesn't work for you anymore. They send me so much paraphernalia and pamphlets and leaflets and please come back. And I'm just like, no, I'll just wait until it's legal here in California, which may be a while, but I'll have to wait and see. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004 on Twitter at the back page if you want to reach out. So we didn't even get to this yesterday, which just how Mondays are so crazy with Monday Night Football and getting to all the news of the day. And then the Troy Aikman thing kind of took hold, and we talked about that a bit. And the Monday night game in terms of, the actual game itself and the wild finish. So we didn't get a chance to get into the Matt Rule firing with Carolina. And, a lot of people had sort of been on the Matt Rule watch to see how long it would take before they cut him loose. I mean, he was 11-27 during his time. And it's hard to argue with that. It's also hard to argue with the fact that they've been without Christian McCaffrey basically for the last 2 seasons because the guy can't stay on the field and be healthy. But David Tepper was just not having it. And you get these guys who come in and buy teams that don't know a heck of a lot about owning teams. And there's a level of impatience, if you will, that sort of hounds them and follows them around. I mean, think about this. Matt Rule, you want to talk about good money if you can get it, and why I feel zero sympathy when these guys get fired. You want to know this? You ready for this? John Belmer, our producer engineer in Houston working on the show for us. Matt Rule was less than 3 years into a 7-year, $62 million contract that he was given in January 2020. 7 years, $62 million. I mean, give me a break, man. I'm sorry. I'm not going to have any problems whatsoever with Matt Rule being fired. He can cry himself to sleep knowing he's got 62 million reasons to be happy. He'll have no problem getting another college job. Now, he was great at Temple. He was great at Baylor. So Rule is out after a 1-4 start. The Panthers are sort of hot garbage right now. And now the question starts to become, who's next on the firing list? And before you get all up in arms, oh, these are people's lives. And these are coaches getting fired. And oh my God. And then their families have to uproot. Yeah, it's not difficult to uproot when you're getting paid out $20 million or $30 million when your team stunk. I would love to stink at my job and still get paid as much as some of these coaches do when they get fired. Would love to stink at my job and get paid that much. So the question becomes, who is the next coach to get fired or voluntarily leave? That is the bet. This is via sportsline.com. Which will be the next NFL coach to be fired or voluntarily leave? All right, here we go. Nathaniel Hackett is at the top of the list, plus 200. Followed by Cliff Kingsbury at plus 300. Ron Rivera at plus 500. If I were placing a value bet here, it would be on Ron Rivera at plus 500. Because if it gets really ugly for the Redskins, oh, see, I did it. The Redskins. Darn it, the Commanders. I got to put $1 in the jar. If Ron Rivera, if it gets really bad there, I mean, Ron Rivera is going to be in a lot of trouble. Frank Reich at plus 600. Pete Carroll at plus 1,000. Now, unless you think he's leaving on his own, I don't think he's going to be fired. Mike Tomlin at plus 1,500 and Josh McDaniels at plus 2,000. If you were placing a value bet there, Belmer, who are you going with? If you're... Yeah, I think it's Rivera. Although I wonder if the Broncos were to go into the tank, there's no way this new ownership would come in and just lop off Nathaniel Hackett's head. I can't see it. The Cliff Kingsbury thing's an interesting one too. Again, you just went and gave all that money to Kyler Murray. And so you can't fire Kyler Murray. He's your quarterback. And Cliff Kingsbury is supposed to be this offensive genius. Yeah. Like I said, the only way Pete Carroll's leaving is if he decides to retire, which I don't think would happen until the end of the season. I just wonder if there's going to be another in-season firing. You know, the in-season firings in the NFL are rare because generally you don't get a lot elevating an assistant. Now, Steve Wilkes is getting the opportunity to be the interim head coach. And you know what? Our buddy Shalice Manza-Brown, Shalice Manza-Young, rather, who's been on the show talking about various issues. We were talking about the Robert Sarver story we had her on talking about. And she makes a good point, you know. Steve Wilkes gets an impossible job as an interim head coach. You basically got a head coach in Matt Rule that drove the train off the tracks, off a cliff, into a ravine, and somehow Steve Wilkes has to come in here and clean it up. He's in a no-win situation. How is that a fair audition to be a head coach? Yeah, Here's a dumpster fire, and we're going to give you a little shot glass of water to try and put that fire out. I mean, that's essentially what the Carolina Panthers are doing. And, I mean, look, that's an impossible situation for Steve Wilkes. So if he can get them to win any games, and I mean any games, down the stretch, he's certainly going to be looked upon favorably as the potential guy to take that job. But we all know there's, every year when the season ends, there's one or two college coaches that everybody has at the top of their list. That college coach du jour, that offensive genius who does something amazing with some college team that wasn't supposed to be that good, who winds up getting an NFL head coaching job, and then within 2 or 3 years, they usually burn out. And that guy will be on the list for the Panthers. And everybody's going to want to go after Sean Payton and try to offer him the moon and the stars. And again, David Tepper has that kind of money. He just bought the franchise. Didn't he used to own like Bank of America or something like that? I mean, he's got money. So if he wants to go and make a play at Sean Payton, that's just another guy that's going to be able to do it. Because look, the whole Sean Payton to Dallas thing was all fun after week 1 and even before the season started when people were trying to figure out, all right, when Mike McCarthy is inevitably fired, who's going to be the next head coach? It was a lot of fun to sit here and sort of ruminate on the idea that Sean Payton would be the next head coach of the Cowboys. Well, now you got a situation. If the Cowboys wind up being way better than anybody thought they were going to be because this defense is Super Bowl caliber and you can win games playing sort of a scaled down, more conservative offensive approach like they've done with Cooper Rush, just plug in Dak Prescott into that spot and do something similar. If you can do that, and Mike McCarthy wins a lot of games this year, makes a deep run into the postseason. I'm not even just talking about a Super Bowl, but just makes a deep run into the postseason. Well, now all of a sudden, Sean Payton, the possibilities of where he winds up, they're all over the place. You could have Sean Payton in Denver next year if they decide to say goodbye to Nathaniel Hackett. Could wind up in Indianapolis. Could wind up in Seattle if Pete Carroll decides to retire. Vegas, a lot of talent on that team. I could see Sean Payton coaching there if Josh McDaniels is a one-and-doner. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter if you want as well. I'm at The Back Page. Again, on Twitter, at The Back Page. Padres trail the Dodgers 5-3, top of the 7th. Padres with a man on and 2 out. We'll keep you posted on the live betting on that. Kurt Heelan coming up in about 15 minutes. My conversation with the NBC Sports Pro Basketball Talk NBA expert. We'll have that coming up as well. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to do. It's the Cash In on Sports Map Radio. We go to the bottom of the 7th. It's stretch time. Dodgers lead the Padres 5-3. Oh, that money line is just so juicy right now if you're the Padres. If you like the Padres, I mean, they're plus 920 on the money line. But they're still plus 2.5 on the run line. And granted, now the juice is up to minus 225, but the Dodgers aren't scoring tons of runs in this game, and they've got a 2-run lead. And there's just a natural tendency in that spot to give an at-bat away here and there. So this idea of, again, I've said 3 times now that I would hammer the spread. Once I said get it at 2.5. Once I said get it at 5.5. Once I said get it at 2.5. If you did it right now, you'd be winning on 3 different bets. And I'm about to do it a 4th time. Right now, the Padres are plus 2.5 at minus 215. I know there's a little bit of juice there. And some people get scared by that juice. I like it a juice. You like it a juice. I like it a juice. Take the Padres plus 2.5 minus 215 right now. That would be 4 bets. Thank you. It's what we want. We want you to cash in. It's the name of the show. It's why we tell you. Plus 2.5. Bang it right now while you still can. Because then you're just counting outs. You don't even have to worry about the Padres scoring again. You're literally winning. The moment you hit click on the bet, you're already winning because they're plus 2.5 and they trail 5-3. How many times can you make a bet and from the start you're winning with a game in the bottom of the 7th? Oh, my God. We need live betting. We need legal betting in California, for crying out loud. I'd be cashing in myself right now. 800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. You can tweet at the show at the back page. Padres are plus 920 on the money line right now. There's 1 out in the bottom of the 7th. So, I mean, you're just counting outs at this point. If you took all those bets I told you to take, you're just counting outs. I mean, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with just having to count outs. You don't even need to score another run. You're just counting outs. Simple as that. Earlier, the Yankees beat the Guardians 4-1 if you missed it. 7-6. A couple of games finished 7-6. Astros come from behind, get a 3-run jack from Yordan Alvarez in the bottom of the 9th against Robbie Ray. By the way, you want to talk about something that's even more irritating about that whole Robbie Ray situation? This is gonna trigger Mariner fans if they're listening right now. You ready for this? Scott Servais made the move to go to Robbie Ray against Yordan Alvarez. He took his closer out of the game, Paul Sewald. Yordan Alvarez, for his career, 1 for 3 against Robbie Ray before that at bat. But I'll do you one better than that. Scott Servais was like, hey, lefty on lefty. Yordan Alvarez this year hitting .321 against lefties, .299 against righties. So where was the advantage? You took a guy in Robbie Ray who's not used to pitching in the situation you were putting him in, and then you put him up against Yordan Alvarez in a situation where he's at a disadvantage because Yordan Alvarez is actually better against lefties. He can hang in there against them. I would have made, you know what I would have done with Scott Servais after that game? I would have made him walk back to the team hotel. And I would just make him walk back to I'll be honest with you. If game 2 were in Seattle, I'd make him walk back to Seattle. Get on a horse. It's terrible. You just gave away the game. And I get it. Look, managers win, players win, managers lose. We hear it all the time in sports. Players win, coaches lose. But in this case, the manager really did lose the game. Granted, you could sit here all day and say Robbie Ray's got to make a better pitch in that spot. He tried to challenge Jordan, but he shouldn't even be in the game. And it's about putting your players in the best possible position to succeed. And Scott Servais did exactly the opposite of that. Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky spot because then you're putting the tying run in scoring position. I think you got to pitch him more carefully than they did. And maybe that was what he was supposed to do, and he just didn't. But I mean, Alvarez destroyed that pitch. It was like 425 feet, 430 feet. Hey, man. It's a big win for the Astros. Like I said, you get that kind of an effort against Justin Verlander, and you knock him around the yard, and he's got to come out after, 4 innings? If you're the Mariners, there's no way you can lose that game. Game 2 is going to be very, very telling. They've got Luis. I mean, look, they've got the perfect guy going in Game 2. If you want to make the argument that if there's any team that can rebound from that devastating loss, this young team, this group, maybe only a couple of guys on the roster that have played postseason baseball. If you want to make the argument for the Mariners still being able to rally and win this series, the argument is you've got Luis Castillo in Game 2. And he has been the move of the trade deadline. That was the move. Not Juan Soto, not Frankie Montas, certainly not Daniel Vogelbach or Darren Ruff. No, the move of the trade deadline was Luis Castillo, and you got him for this Game 2 coming up tomorrow. Or rather on Thursday, sorry. If you go tomorrow, be an empty stadium. I apologize. So Framber Valdez for the Astros in Game 2. And I would bang the Mariners at plus 130 on the money line in Game 2. I think they do bounce back, and I think it's because of him. There is an immense amount of confidence in him and what he's done. If he can't put it out in this game, then the series is basically over. They're not going to win the last 3 games of the series. But at least they'll get one home playoff game at the very least. Fans and Mariners have been starving for that for a while. 1-800-224-2004. You can hit me up on Twitter at The Back Page. Again, on Twitter at The Back Page. We'll talk some NBA on the other side. What's going on with the Warriors, this Draymond Green situation? Kurt Heelan, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com will weigh in. Stick around. We got more for you on the Cash-In, Sports Map Radio, and the Sports Map Radio app. All right, so you got it all on your end? All right, I'll talk to you in about 20 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, I got a pre-tape here for...
I think they don't have to is the good thing. This is a really deep team with good players, and not just, by the way, C.J. McCollum and Brandon Ingram. Like Larry Nassar is going to be able to come in there and play some minutes. Like Herb, they're deep with guys who are solid NBA position players who are going to be able to come in and eat up minutes during the regular season. Guys you might not be able to lean on heavily in the postseason, but you can give them more minutes in the regular season. And I think you can do that. I think you can, because of that, you can get some load management nights in for Zion, right? Like you can just not have him play a back-to-back or whatever it might be. So I wouldn't be shocked if they go that route, if they're a little cautious with him for good reason. But I'm with you. I am curious to see what a 7-game Zion looks like, because if it's anything like the Zion we've seen in preseason, and even frankly one season he was mostly healthy, that's like an all NBA level guy. And suddenly that becomes a very, like I said, just a very interesting team.
Yeah, it's a team nobody wants to play in the postseason. The Lakers are obviously a big topic of conversation. You and I are both out on the West Coast. Everybody's sort of holding their breath for what this team looks like during the regular season. Any sense for what that roster looks like right now, and how Russell Westbrook fits into all of it, and the relative health of the team, and trying to keep everybody on the court again for 70 or 75 games, being able to have the core playing together, where the Lakers are at right now?
I'll say Anthony Davis looked good in his last preseason game where they kind of put him out there and let him really go, and they're asking a lot of him. They're going to run through the offense through him. He is going to be more of a number one option. Obviously, they've got LeBron, and I'm going to let you in on a secret, Jason. I think at the end of the games, they're going to put the ball in LeBron's hands. But
here's the thing. But here's the thing that I'll say to that before you continue. They'll put it in his hands. He'll draw a double, and then somebody's going to have to make a shot, because they're not going to let LeBron take the last shot in a lot of instances.
No, and I look, Kendrick Nunn has looked pretty good. I thought Kevin Durant is a completely different team, but same concept, where you're like, well, let's see what it looks like. Even he today, they asked, hey, how's the vibes? And he's like, and I think this applies to the Lakers. He's like, hey, our vibes have been great. Like, it's been really, I think straight is the word he used. Vibes have been really straight. Everything's been good. But what happens when we hit, we lose a few in a row and hit a skid, or somebody gets injured? Like, that's when we're really going to be tested as a team. I think that's absolutely true of the Lakers, who lost their will last year. They were not, I think Patrick Beverley, I was there. Patrick Beverley on Media Day basically said, I wasn't worried about beating the Lakers here because I knew they'd mentally wear down. He used slightly different wording, but that was basically his line. He isn't wrong. I think with Beverly, they won't necessarily be as soft this year that way mentally. But what happens when adversity hits? What happens when Westbrook isn't fit system? Right now, he's doing all the things he said he'd do, but what happens when he doesn't? It's going to be interesting. Or what happens when he tries to take over at the end of the game and he doesn't give it to LeBron or Anthony Davis? It's the adversity is coming, and we'll see how these Lakers handle it.
I got less than a minute left. I have to ask my one obligatory Knicks question. Can they be a top 4 seed?
Dude, it's a good thing you're in California. That stuff's legal here. No, I don't think. I think they're a play-in team. Maybe, look, if things broke their way, maybe they could get up to 6. If RJ has a good year and some teams above them struggle a little bit, here's the problem. They got better. Getting Brunson, another year RJ Barrett, I think they got better, but the East as a whole got better. So I'm not sure that they're more than a play-in team right now.
Kurt Hanlon, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Check out his work there. My man, it's always good to catch up. You're not far from me because I'm in Palm Springs. I'm going to have to get out there. We're going to have to get together before long.
I'm out that way occasionally. I've got in-laws out there. So if you're out, I'll send you a message. I hear there are places that serve beer there.
Yeah, and places we can watch sports too. Kurt, always appreciate it, my man. Be well.
Take care.
Kurt Hanlon, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Always good to catch up with him for a few. I'm holding out hope for my Knicks. I don't root for anybody hard anymore. The closest I come to it is the Yankees. I grew up on the East Coast, so I have some of that New York bias, obviously, which probably shows through at times. But I'm not, Yeah, there's the Yankees are about the only thing I come close to sort of, quote unquote living and dying with. My Nick love died when Patrick Ewing got traded to the Seattle Supersonics. Remember the Seattle Supersonics? Yeah. One day they'll be back. All right, we'll come back, wrap up this hour of the Cash In. I'm Jason Page at Sports Map Radio.
Wake up!
So now I have a way I can do playbacks for my video audience, which is good. No. But what I'm saying is, when I'm doing, like in a segment like that, rather than just people staring at me on a screen doing nothing. So, yeah, that's what it's made for. Yeah. Let's see, what will happen first? Will this game end or will we be back from break? Look at that. You would have hit all 4 of the live bets I suggested. All 4 we would have been cashing checks on. Ah! Makes me crazy. Would have been 4 for 4. Fat stacks. God damn, man. Thing is, we've got the vote in November for it. No, but the thing is, supposedly both propositions for sports betting are going to lose. Because people got so mad because every other ad on TV was vote for Prop 26, vote for Prop 27. And people got so pissed, they basically just said, we're voting no out of spite. Yeah, no joke, dude. Because the Indian tribes here said we want it all on our tribal land, no mobile sports betting. So that was Prop 26. Prop 27 was mobile sports betting available everywhere, and the tribes fought that. So all they did was fight back and forth and launch all these attack ads. Yeah. Instead, you're going to have everybody loses. Congrats. Good tune. Well, I was guessing, would the game end before we got back from the break? And the answer is no, it's still going. 5-3, top of the ninth, 2 outs. If you had listened to the 4 live bets I gave you during this game, you'd go 4 for 4. All 4 of them would have hit. Ugh! That's why you got to listen. That's why you got to listen. That's why you got to watch. That's why we're the cash in. Cash in. Just trying to make you some fat stacks, dude. Or if you're a woman and you're listening or watching the show, the largest segment of the gambling population that continues to grow is women. It's a true story. So looks like the Dodgers will win here. 2 outs in the ninth. Jake Cronenworth up. We'll let you know what happens if the game does continue. Oh, it looks like it will. Cronenworth gets on with a base hit, so it isn't over yet. Padres will bring the tying run to the plate. Wow. Crazy finish. Hey, don't forget, if you haven't tried it out yet, check out jockmkt.com. That is the way to get in. It's a new way to do fantasy sports. It's called Jock MKT because it's short for Jock Market. So instead of stock market, Jock Market. You could put in bids on players the same way you would stocks. And then when the competition starts, if you bid the highest on that player, he's yours. And if he does really well, you make money. It's really cool. Right now, a 100% deposit bonus is available by using promo code CASHIN. Download the Jock MKT app. Use the promo code on your first deposit, cash in, 100% deposit bonus is yours, up to $100. Good job, John Belmer, producing it out of Houston. I'm Jason Page. We'll catch you back here tomorrow night on the Cash In on Sports Map Radio. Bye! Got it all. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, my man. Nice job tonight. You know what to do for the podcast. I'll talk to you. We'll get you back on next week. Have a good week. If you have any questions on anything, even though you're not doing the show, feel free to let me know. Cool. Absolutely. Be good, my man. Nice working with you again. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, those of you watching the video stream, thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm exhausted. I'll talk to you guys all on Wednesday night, Hump Day edition of the show. We'll have some new, we'll do the early NFL lines for the weekend. We'll go through those. Oh, look at that. As soon as we left, as soon as the show ended, the Dodgers win 5-3. So all the playoff games are done just as we say goodbye. Enjoy the playoff baseball tomorrow. Don't forget, you can hit me up anytime on Twitter at The Back Page. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at The Back Page. Also, the Decibel 88 YouTube page, if you're not following that. It's the other place to watch this show. Also on Facebook, Decibel 88. You can hit us up there. And on Twitch, Jason Page 77. That's it. I think I got them all. I'm done. I'm going to go eat some wings or some sort of food. I don't know. I'm not sure what my partner's making. Everybody have a great night. I'll see you next time.